Here is section 1 of the story. Blue Square Section 1. The setup. A relaxed weekend turns uncomfortable. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon, the kind of day where everything feels slow and sleepy. I was home alone with Lena, my stepsister. Our parents had gone out of town for the weekend on a short getaway, something they did once every couple of months to reconnect, as they called it. Lena and I weren't close in the traditional sibling way. We never grew up together. Our parents got married just 2 years ago. She was always around, but we mostly kept to ourselves. Just casual chats here and there. Nothing more. I was in my room, lounging on the bed, headphones on, lost in some random gaming stream. The knock on my door startled me. "Hey, you busy?" Lena's voice came through the door. "Pause the video." "Kinda." "Why?" She opened the door slightly and peeked in. She looked tired, dressed in her usual homewear, tank top and shorts. "I've got this knot in my back. From gym yesterday, I think. I tried everything, hot shower, stretches. Nothing works. Could you maybe help me out with a quick massage?" I raised an eyebrow, caught off guard. "Massage?" "Yeah, I just can't reach it. I promise, just a few minutes." I hesitated. It didn't seem like a big deal. It wasn't like we were related by blood or anything. Still, something about it felt odd. But I shrugged it off. "All right. Sure." She smiled and led me to her room. It was neat, filled with soft lighting and a hint of vanilla-scented candles. She lay face down on her bed, pulling her tank top slightly to expose the middle of her back. Right there, near the shoulder blade. I sat beside her and began pressing into the area she pointed at. My hands moved slowly at first, unsure. I wasn't exactly a trained masseur, and I said so. "You're doing fine," she said softly, her voice muffled by the pillow. "Better than I expected, actually." As I kept going, I noticed her breathing shift. Soft, slow exhales. First, I thought it was relief. Maybe I hit the right spot. But then her body language changed. A small stretch, a quiet hum, almost like a purr. I froze for a second. "Is it too much pressure?" I asked, trying to stay focused. "No, it's good. Feels nice," she replied, voice low. A strange feeling crept in, like I was doing something I shouldn't be. Her words were normal, but her tone wasn't. It wasn't teasing exactly. More like she was trying to make me feel something. I couldn't explain it, but my instincts told me to be cautious. I finished up quickly, pulled my hands back. "I think that's good enough." She looked over her shoulder and smiled. Not in a weird way, but something in her eyes made me feel nervous. Like she was thinking something I wasn't ready to understand. I muttered something about heading back to my room and left without another word. I closed my door, heart beating faster than it should have. It was just a massage, right? But something told me this weekend wasn't going to stay ordinary. Let me know when you're ready for section 2. Here is section 2 of the story. Blue Square Section 2. The shift, mixed signals and emotional conflict. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept thinking about that moment in Lena's room. The soft way she breathed, the way she looked over her shoulder at me, the weird tension in the air. It played over and over in my mind, like a scene I couldn't fast forward past. I kept telling myself it was just in my head. A normal back massage. Nothing else. But the feeling in my gut said otherwise. The next morning I tried to act normal. I stayed in my room longer than usual, hoping she'd leave me alone. Eventually I made my way to the kitchen. Lena was already there making coffee. She looked completely relaxed, hair tied up, wearing an oversized hoodie, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. "Morning," she said casually, not even looking up. "Hey," I muttered. She poured me a cup without asking, slid it toward me. "Thanks for the massage last night. My back feels way better." I nodded, trying not to look directly at her. "Yeah, no problem." Then she added, "You've got really good hands. I didn't expect you to be that gentle." Froze. That comment wasn't exactly inappropriate. But it wasn't just friendly either. There was something behind her tone again, a quiet softness that made me feel like she was testing me. seeing how I'd respond. Forced a laugh. I just did what you asked. She smirked a little and walked off with her coffee. Well, maybe next time you can do it a little longer. I stood there, holding the mug, completely thrown off. Throughout the day, I kept catching her glancing at me. Not in a creepy way, just observant, like she was studying me. And her behavior had shifted too. More playful, more present. She wasn't usually this chatty. Lena was the type to stay in her room, post on Instagram and binge Netflix. But now she was hanging around more. Sitting closer than usual on the couch. Making jokes that felt a little too personal. In the afternoon, she came into the living room while I was watching a movie and sat beside me. Closer than she normally would. Is this the part where they kiss? She asked with a half smile, pointing at the screen. I glanced at her. I don't know. Probably. She leaned a little toward me and whispered. Sometimes people don't even realize they're into each other until something random happens. Like a touch. My heart skipped. I laughed nervously. That's deep. She just smiled and turned back to the screen. The rest of the movie, I barely registered what was happening. My mind was spiraling. Was she serious? Was this just some weird game? Was she flirting with me, or was I reading too much into it? I left the room early, pretending I was tired. But really I was shaken. Confused. Scared even. I didn't know what was going on anymore. All I knew was that whatever had started the night before wasn't over yet. Here is section of the story. Blue square section 3. The temptation lines blurred, decision time. The next day, the tension between us was impossible to ignore. I tried to keep my distance. Headphones on, door closed, pretending to be deep into a game or texting friends. But even with all the distractions, I could feel her presence like static in the air. Every little interaction felt loaded. I didn't want to admit it, but part of me was curious. Even drawn in. By mid-afternoon, Lena knocked on my door again. Hey, she said, peeking in. I made lunch. You hungry? I hesitated. Yeah, I guess. She'd cooked something simple. Grilled cheese, soup, nothing fancy. But she'd gone out of her way to do it. And the way she looked at me when I sat down across from her made my stomach knot up again. You've been avoiding me, she said out of nowhere. Paused mid-bite. No, just been tired. She tilted her head. Was it because of the massage thing? I nodded slowly. It just felt a little weird, that's all. She didn't flinch. Weird how? Like, I don't know. We're step-siblings. And it didn't really feel like a regular back rub. A silence stretched between us. Then she said something I wasn't ready for. We're not really siblings, though. Not by blood. We're just two people living in the same house. I stared at her. Her voice wasn't playful anymore. It was serious, calm, but laced with something dangerous. I think you felt it too, she continued. It wasn't just me, was it? I didn't know how to respond. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear myself think. I could have denied it, walked away. But instead I just sat there, frozen. She stood, walked over to my side of the table, and leaned down slightly. I won't tell anyone, she whispered. And I won't do anything you don't want. Her hand brushed my arm, slow, deliberate. It was like time stopped. Every part of me was screaming with confusion. I wanted to pull away, to tell her to stop. But I also wanted to understand what this was. What she really meant. The line between right and wrong had blurred. This wasn't a stranger, but it also wasn't a sister. Not fully. I stood up suddenly, stepping back. Lena, I can't. She looked up at me, startled. I can't, I repeated. It's not right. Even if we're not related by blood, we live under the same roof. Our parents trust us. No. I don't want to be that guy. Her face shifted. A mix of embarrassment, frustration, and something close to sadness. I didn't mean to, she began. I know, I interrupted. But I'm not going to pretend this is nothing. I need space. I left the room quickly, heart pounding. The temptation had been real, overwhelming even. But I'd made a choice. One I knew would change everything. And deep down I wasn't sure if I'd regret it or be proud. Let me know when you're ready for section 4, final section. Here is section 4, the final part of the story. Blue square section 4. The consequences. Distance, reflection, and regret. The days that followed were painfully quiet. Lena kept to herself. No more casual jokes. No more random visits to my room. It was like someone had flipped a switch between us, and maybe that was for the best. But it didn't stop the weight from sitting heavy on my chest. I'd thought rejecting her would bring relief. Instead, I felt the sharp sting of something broken that couldn't be fixed. We barely exchanged words the rest of the weekend. When our parents returned, the house slipped back into its usual rhythm, but I knew things had changed beneath the surface. Lena acted normal around them, smiling, laughing, helping with dinner. She was good at hiding things. Me, not so much. I avoided family dinners. I kept my headphones on longer. I stayed in my room more than ever. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't trust myself. Because I still remembered the look in her eyes. And the way I almost gave in. One night about a week later, she slipped a note under my door. No text. No conversation. Just a folded piece of paper. It said, "I'm sorry if I made things weird. I didn't mean to mess anything up. I guess I just got confused. Forget it ever happened if you want. L." I stared at that note for hours. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry but because I understood. Lena wasn't some villain trying to ruin me. She was just lonely. Confused. Maybe she thought the only way to feel something was to cross lines that shouldn't be crossed. And maybe I almost did too. I ended up talking to one of my closest friends. Someone I trusted but didn't tell the full story to. Just enough. "There's this situation," I said. "With someone who's close. I almost did something I know I'd regret." He listened quietly, then said something I'll never forget. "Sometimes the things no one ever sees, the decisions you make in private, those define your character the most. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong." That stuck with me. Over the next few weeks, things started to settle. Lena and I shared a few casual conversations again, but nothing like before. No tension. No closeness. Just space. And it felt necessary. I started making plans to move out after graduation. Not because of what happened, but because I knew I needed distance to grow. To breathe. To keep myself grounded. Sometimes I still think about that weekend. Not with desire, but with reflection. How fast the line between curiosity and chaos can blur. How close I came to changing my life in a single moment. But I didn't. And that made all the difference.